And on June 3rd, right here on the screen right here, the full moon in Sagittarius that happens pretty much at 8:41 p.m. But as we go into the day, the night before, late at night, the moon finally leaves Scorpio and goes into the mutable sign of Sagittarius, which, let's remember, Sagittarius is a fire mutable sign that is ruled by Jupiter. And so get that in your head, that Jupiter is a factor in all this. And we know Jupiter's been in the sign of Taurus, newly ingressed into the sign of Taurus in May, and will be there for 1 year. So when we get to this full moon here at 8:41 p.m., we could catch a couple things. The buildup of the whole week of the fixed cross gets a little bit of mutable relief by the sun in Gemini being, and the moon in Sagittarius being opposite of each other. And what mutable does, they take what the fixed has started. Fixed took what cardinal started. There's fixed, and then here comes mutable to change it up, to give it a little bit of a pressure release, to get ready to shift it into another form. And this is where we can become grateful for mutable signs to help us have relief from fixed tension and fixed stories. At some point, something has to change, right? If you're focused and locked in, something has to shift. So this full moon gives us that. And just remember, Jupiter brings and pushes things out farther, seeks out something more. Jupiter is a questing planet, and whatever it does and whatever it touches, it magnifies for the good or for the worse, right? So we like to think of it as a benefic planet. It brings benefits, but that doesn't mean anything all the time. Sometimes we go too far. We go over the top, over the edge, right? So in this case with Jupiter, we're going to look at the moon here in Sag. Right here, I'll point to it, and we're going to go find Jupiter, right? So we know earlier in the week that Jupiter made its conjunction with the North Node, where the eclipses have been happening in Scorpio and Taurus for 1.5 years now, and we're pretty much almost done with that. But Jupiter's newly focused, newly magnified in the resource-heavy, in the creation of resource-heavy Taurus, which is ruled by Venus and wants to harmonize and bring in money and resources to make your plot of land grow and comfortable. And from that plot of land, we have our benefits, and those benefits are a reflection of what we value, of the hard work that we put in to make the garden grow, the hard work we took to acquire the resources to feed our metaphorical garden to grow. Wherever Taurus is in your chart, this is the theme for the year. Now, we have to remember, Taurus likes to have the good and finer things in life, and sometimes can go overboard. Another extra glass of wine too much, another inflated amount of food, spending too much. So we have to be careful in a transit like this. Even though we have a Sagittarius full moon and it's letting off the pressure of the fixed sign cross of the week, Jupiter wants to magnify and have a little bit of fun too. Just remember, try not to go overboard on the full moon here. But Jupiter's kind of the fuel behind this full moon. But we also want to take a look at something else. We still want to take a look at this Mercury-Uranus conjunction that's already applying here in Taurus too. So your Taurus part of the chart is lit up again, okay? So we have surprising ideas, erratic ideas, things coming out of the blue with speech. Mercury is finally getting past these places it was at during the Mercury retrograde that happened at the end of April into May, and it's starting to go faster and move faster. And Mercury in Taurus doesn't necessarily like to move fast, but there is an electric energy here. But the reason is because when these two get together, which they have been, Uranus and Mercury, they're like firecrackers, a sharp tongue, even for a Taurus. And here during this full moon with Jupiter and Taurus, we have this energy magnified. So there's a lot of things that could be said during this full moon that are intense, playful, new, progressive, wild ideas that can come into play. And it's pushing the boundaries of things. And inherently, that's what Sagittarius likes to do. Being fueled by Jupiter is to push the boundaries, to see how far one can go with their dreams and their vision. And in this case, the dreams and the vision that's happening in the Sag part of the chart and in the Taurus part of the chart are fueled by the erratic, surprising word. Use it to your advantage. try to take the word of inventiveness into the potion that you drink, that when it does come back out in your communicated form, that it brings something new and a new outlook, which all fixed signs, especially like Taurus, need. Sometimes they need to get away from their bubble and a tunnel vision and to look at things from a different perspective. And that different perspective can be beneficial for you things like you Taurus people like resources and cash. You know what I mean? So take a step out and have fun with it. There's something else too here, and I don't want to forget this because I didn't bring this up, but the night before on that Friday, while we still have some of the scorpionic moon stuff, there's a bigger thing in play here that's totally dreamy. And it's Venus in Cancer at 28 degrees, and it's officially happened on June 2nd at 3:42 p.m. Pacific. We had a Venus-Neptune trine happening, and it's still happening through the weekend and into the full moon. And here's the trine. Now, this stuff brings confusion. I will say that off the bat to get the challenging part of it out of the way. Now, the other part of it. Now, we got a bunch of Taurus energy, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we're breaking down this full moon chart here. Jupiter's in play. We go look at the Taurus planets, and we go, what rules Taurus? Then we go look to Venus here in the chart in watery Cancer, emotion Cancer, connecting in a beautiful, harmonious relationship with the dreamy, boundaryless Neptune and Pisces. This is romance. This is idealism. This is fantasy. And what can be? What will our dreams, where will they take us? No boundaries. Anything goes. Anything can happen. And when you have Jupiter ruling the Sagittarius full moon, you could see here the combination of the dreaminess, idealism, and boundary pushing to past its limits. And this is good for human beings, especially if they've had a lot of tension in their world, like a lot of what's happening in the sky. At the same time, and you have to see my face when I do this one because at the same time, we have to be careful with not having any boundaries. Sometimes the dream turns into fantasy, which turns into fog. And what is real? What is real and what can become reality? We want to make a note here, and I'm not trying to rain on your dream lovey-dovey parade of what the full moon is, but we have to understand that boundaries are good too. We're pushing the boundaries in many different ways during this full moon, and rightfully so. We need that release. We need that mutability, but we also need a premise, a place for the dream to build out of and to become true. But we want the dream to come true inherently. And so we don't want to go too far, or we don't want to place everything onto a certain vision, especially if it's not real inherently and it's coming from a different place where reality isn't taken into account, where it's just all dreams and visions. And then it's a letdown afterwards because we put something up on a pedestal and it was never could be true. It could never had a chance. We want to do and think of things here during the full moon that truly do have a chance. And it's only there with structure and boundary that we can make those dreams come true. Now, idealism, romance, fantasy, fog. I'll tell you though, behind all this too, and I'll put the chart up here because I don't want to forget something else to kind of like give you a hardcore reality check. And that's just how I am. You know, people who watch this channel, I'm always going to give you all sides of it. And the thing is we have this ongoing square that's going off, even though it's 8 degrees, with Mars and Jupiter here, and things can get inflated and extravagant and drama-filled. The fixed story that I've mentioned through this whole video is still in play at this full moon. And so we have types of energy that deal with no boundaries and idealism. And then you have Mars and Leo wanting to profess itself, being magnified by the North Node and Jupiter, or North Node and Jupiter, and it enhances that. And there's tension from the weak. And here we got the energy actually to use to get our goals met, because Mars and Leo it will see things all the way through with creative power, right? Mars fueling Leo, and so the energy behind goals being met, and at the same time, one can go too hard, too fast, and overboard. So you have another version of busting past a boundary here because of Jupiter's involvement with Mars. So now, that's a lot to try to balance. And at times, we're dealing with surprises with Mercury and Uranus here. But here's what I'm going to tell you and how to focus on this. And I like to think about these things during the day when I'm taking a walk and a shower, when I wake up in the morning with transits. Like, what am I going to say on my YouTube channel to people to give them a possible way of working with things and solution-based? This is important. You can't control everything in your life. Things happen to you. You don't have control over it. But what you have control over, and one of the biggest powers of being a human being, is your reaction to things. There's the reactive part, and then there's the initiating part of what you're doing for yourself, where you make a first move and you do things first. And both of those things are based on intention in the end. It's based on focus, breath work, and knowing where you stand with things. So first off, know where you stand during these whole transits of the week and during the full moon. Second, energy can be focused. Even when it's a dream mixed with a pulsating Mars and Jupiter, you could combine the dream and the vision together and focus on the goal step by step, but be patient. The other thing is like, we want to be careful of being careless and having an overinflated ego at times with Mars and Leo, but we want to keep that in check, because if we go off center, we lose the relentlessness and the fixed power. We don't want to get sidetracked with drama. The other thing is to remember that Sagittarius, Jupiter, it enlarges everything it touches. It seeks something higher. And in the end, Jupiter, Sagittarius is about a quest, a philosophical quest, a higher truth to walk towards, to bring into one's life. So inherently in the end, after everything I said about this week in the lunation, we are thinking about the quest that we're on in the fixed places in our chart, the Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus places of our chart, and the determination that is needed to get this higher truth and envision to become reality. So stay focused, stay optimistic, Jupiter, okay, and have faith in the quest that you're on in the areas in this chart. At the same time, give yourself a break on this full moon. For all the tension we've had in fixed signs, we get a little bit of an interesting lunation on the weekend, and we want to at least a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of a dream, and let yourself go into that. Just remember, don't go too far. I'll end it on the next day here on June 4th. Thanks for sticking with me. And is officially at 12:49 p.m. on June 4th, Mercury will be officially conjunct Uranus for that electrical communicative talk that we've been dealing with Mercury and Taurus for 2 months now. And it officially has its last conjunction with Uranus officially on Sunday, June 4th. And that's how the week ends. Do I really want to talk about the next day, June 5th? I do, because on June 5th, one of the most important transits of the year, in my opinion as an astrologer, begins on June 5th, and that has to do with Venus entering the sign of Leo. And you're just going to have to wait for my Venus and Leo video that hopefully will be out within this, happens in a week, and I will break down all the aspects of the Venus and Leo story from June to October, because Venus will be retrograde in Leo and pretty much on stage to give us the most potent transit of the year, where we can see things tangibly and make the changes in the fixed parts of our chart. But that's another video. If you made it this far and you've never been here before, thank you for watching. Hit the subscribe button. Check my website out, sparklesofgold.com. I really flourish on one-on-one consultations. I have different rates up there. If you like to make a comment down below, please do that too. Once a month, sometimes twice a month, I do live streams where I take phone calls live on air and do free chart readings. You can go down below and look at my past live streams and see what I do. I'll be announcing my next Empower Hour, as I call it, coming up in June, where you can call in and we talk about all things astrology. I do astrology book reviews. I talk about some of my thoughts politically. We put up famous people's charts. And most importantly, I take your phone calls and put your chart up on screen and we have a conversation. I love you all. Thanks for the support. Welcome to my new viewers. And as I always say at the end of my videos, until next time, I'll see you on the next video.